taking a look at a 1916 Rumley oil pull Model F. Behind me is this tractor. It is 15 horsepower on the drawbar and 30 horsepower on the belt. Believe it or not, this tractor is a single cylinder tractor. It only has one cylinder in it, and it's about half the size of its big brother, the 3060. The 3060 has a 2-cylinder engine in it, so Rumley made both the 3060 with 2 cylinders and then a 1530 by just removing one of those cylinders and marketing it as a smaller tractor. So kind of unique in that sense. This is the only single-cylinder tractor that Rumley, the Rumley company made. We can take a look at some of the really cool things about this tractor. It weighs 16,500 pounds, so it's a rather heavy tractor, and it stands a little over 10.5 feet tall. These rear wheels, they're about just a little over 6 foot tall, as I'm 6'4", so you can kind of get some proportion there. So this is how big this tractor is. The piston inside that engine, remember it's a single cylinder engine, the piston inside is 10 inches in diameter, and the stroke on that piston is about 1 foot or 12 inches. So roughly about the size of this tank right here is about the size of that piston. You cut that in half and then you have the bore and stroke there. So it's a rather large piston inside this engine. So we take a look at the name of this tractor. It's called a Rumley oil pull. It's really unique in that sense. Why they got that name was for 2 reasons actually. One, the primary fuel that this tractor would burn was kerosene. The Rumley company prided themselves on the fact that they were capable of burning all grades of kerosene. And if we take a look at this tractor, we can see several different tanks on it. Right here is your main fuel tank where you would put your kerosene. This smaller tank here is kind of unique. When a tractor burns kerosene, the engine needs to be warm in order for it to effectively burn. So this tank right here is actually for gasoline. So a farmer would fill up this tank with gasoline, and its sole purpose was to start the tractor. You would start it, let it run for a few minutes until that engine got good and warm. After that engine warmed up, the farmer could then switch over and start pulling fuel from this tank. This tank contained the kerosene, which burns a little better once it's warmed up. It's really hard to start a tractor cold on kerosene just because it doesn't have that combustibility that gasoline does. However, kerosene was half the price. We looked at the rear wheels. We see that this tractor is a gear-driven tractor. It has 2 speeds forward, 1 speed reverse. The top speed on this tractor is just under 3 miles an hour. So it doesn't move very quick, but it'll get you from point A to point B. We take a look at this big wheel right here. This is your flywheel. This is what you would start, or how you would start your engine. A lot of farmers, or back then, the most common way of starting this is to stand up on this wheel, and by putting your foot in here and kicking it, if you're a little stronger, you can get down here and roll it over this way to get that engine to turn over and start. Really unique thing about this tractor, this engine actually sits at a slight angle, which is kind of unique. Why they did that, not really sure. Whether it was for the fluid transfer of oil lubricating everything, but it was built and established at an angle like that. We look at this front box. This front box is really unique compared to a lot of tractors. So inside this box we have a radiator, similar to a radiator you have in your cars at home. These are actually the fins that are in the radiator, and you can kind of see this pattern. This is where the oil flows through the radiator and has about maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of passageway through there. So that oil flows through there, and that's how you use to cool it. But the reason that oil was used instead of water is oil has a higher boiling point. So that oil could get a lot warmer inside that engine without boiling, unlike water. And that allowed them to burn that kerosene more effectively. If the engine got too hot because they were using oil, you would add water into your fuel mix, and that would keep your engine right at the constant temperature and prevent that kerosene from pre-igniting. We also take a look at this. We notice that there's no fans on here to cool your radiator. It's just a box with a spout up front. Quite often, these tractors get confused with steam engines because they do smoke quite a bit, and that exhaust that comes from your engine comes out the top of the stack. The way that they got around not having a fan is they actually use the exhaust from the engine that gets plumbed up to the front of the tractor here, and it gets blown out the top. That creates a draft which sucks cool air from the bottom up through the radiator and out the top. So using the engine's own exhaust, they're actually cooling cooling the engine as well. So kind of a really unique feature. That's the main reason that they were deemed the Rumley oil pull, was because of their oil cooling system, or their oil radiator system. We take a look down at the steering. This is a chain-driven steering compared to your automotive steering of today. So how this worked is you have a worm gear on the other side, and as you turn your steering wheel, it would twist this shaft right here. And depending on which way you're turning, it would pull on one side of this chain or the other. So turning is not a simple turn your steering wheel and you're going in that direction. It was a rapid steering motion to get those front wheels to turn in the direction that you wanted. And as soon as you got to that point, then you have to turn back. So lots of steering on these tractors to keep it going in the direction that you wanted it to head.